Now, as everyone knows, Azur Lane is a gacha game. And just like any other gacha games, RNG is involved. However, I do believe Azur Lane is one of the least RNG needed game in the gacha market as of right now. So when we're talking about RNG, I'm talking about everything from upgrades, pulling, combat, all that stuff. I truly do believe it has one of the lowest, if not the lowest, amount of RNG needed for the entire concept of the game. So let's start with the basic, the rates. So in this game, it is a very simple rate. You have your, well, let's not look at this pull because it's an event pull, whatever, but you have your 1.2% for ultra rares, your 7% for super rares, 12% for elites, 51% for blues, and 29% for the whites. So across the board, like these rates right here are pretty good. Like the ultra rare rate in this game is higher than most games 5 stars or SSR rates by a large margin as well too. So it's actually not that bad, and there's a pity system as well too. So in terms of rates, it's pretty fair. There are like percentages or whatever, so like 7% you have like 2% being rates up whatever, but it's still pretty good at the end of the day. It's still really good. Now I will say that the elites and SSRs, if you guys are going for collection, there's no pity for those, so those can be pretty rough. I've been there before, trust me, and you can go do like 500 600 cubes like that, no problem. But for the most part though, you're not missing much. You're missing probably collection. Hopefully you're not missing anything meta, because as of right now, all the meta stuff nowadays are like mostly ultra rares that can be pitied, so it's not that big of a deal. So I truly do believe that the gacha system is pretty fair for the RNG. Now when it comes to upgrades, I like this one the most, because if you guys don't already know, every ship is basically the same stat. The only variance is like rings, and that's pretty much it. So let's take, for example, like I'll use a unringed ship for this. Let's talk about what's a good example here? Let me look here. Nagato. At 125, Nagato, this is the same stat as everyone else's. One firepower, like some ships may not have like more firepower. Like some Nagatos aren't gonna have 430 without being ringed, or 410. It's all the same thing. The only difference here are the perma stats, and perma stats can be farmed, and it's a long-term kind of grind or whatever, so it's not that big of a deal, and even then it's very minimal, and even then you can farm for it if you truly do want to maximize your stats. Again, it's not that big of a deal. And if we go to gear, check this out guys. If we go to gear, I'm gonna pick, I don't know, my Alsace. Everyone's plus 13, 457, assuming you have one, are the same stats. No 457 out there is going to have 300 damage on shells, 20% fire rate or whatever, and like 80 firepower. No. All the gears in this game are pretty much the same thing at their equivalent upgrade. In other games out there, I'm not going to say what games, but you have like RNG stats, RNG lines. Once you get the item, it's RNG. That's annoying. I personally don't care if someone has like the same gear as me when I worked like a year for it. I really don't care. Like I rather everyone be on a equal playing field and have a very stress-free gear upgrade progression. It's not that hard. Like I shouldn't be thinking like a year or two down the line my gear is pretty good, but they're not best. Like I don't want to think like that. Right here, this is the best as you can get. Plus 13 UR gear, 457. You're not gonna get stronger than this. Like this is the cap right here. And personally, some people like the variance of gear because it's different. Some people go this build or whatever, and that's fine. But personally, I like it to be the same throughout most players, because consistency and having fairness for everyone is what makes the game enjoyable, at least to me. Because then I don't feel like, oh, I gotta keep going, I'm shafted or whatever. No, none of that. Everyone has the same gear, everyone has the same progression. You're good to go. Alright. Now the combat, I'm not going to talk about the combat in this game because everyone autos and everyone knows that this game has pretty hefty RNG on some ships. I'm not going to say who, Enterprise, Elena, but for the most part, a lot of the RNG comes down to crit rolls. If the shells land, if the torpedo bombers land, if the planes land, it can be pretty RNG for the most part. But at the end of the day, when you look at damage scores, assuming you're not running like Helena or like people that proc with a 7% proc rate, most of the damage output should be relatively similar, like give or take a certain amount of damage output. But combat in this game can be okay consistent, and even then, unless you're doing like bossing to like the bare minimum T, you're gonna wipe the floor with most mob content, boss content in the game anyways. The only content where you need that like high rolled variance are probably like meta fights and maybe hard arbiter fights as well too. Otherwise, you don't need that much RNG variance. You just go in there, toss some ships in, and boom, you're done. It's just that simple. So to me, I think like this game doesn't have that much RNG, and personally that's why I like the game, because if I know I'm gonna max out characters or whatever, I get stats, they're not gonna get stronger than this. Like, I'm not gonna sit there 6 years later down the line and be like, hey guys, my Shinano's missing like 2 more aviation, we can definitely push it out there. If I rolled this this 10 ride to have 67 aviation, no. The moment I see these stats, I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about it. It's just that easy, and that's why I like very little RNG, and why this game is truly a rare breed these days when you have a swarm, I'm talking swarm of games that just loves that RNG upgrade for their gear. I can't stand it. I hate seeing HP, I hate seeing defense, and I hate seeing like just useless lines that I don't want. Everyone knows at the end of the day, no matter what game you play, offensive lines are the best lines. It's like that for every single game in existence. The only games where you would see defensive lines be actually useful are like action RPG games like Path of Exile or Last Epoch. Those kind of games, defensive lines are very, very good. These kind of games though, most of the time, offensive lines are the way to go. Because you're relying on skill, you're clearing the content faster, and the best defense is to kill the enemy faster. I know it's dumb logic, but it's true. So everyone wants these damage lines. And when you gate that behind RNG, it gets frustrating. Luckily in Azur Lane, I don't need to care about that because I can just go pure damage if I want to. Oh, I wanna build my Shinano for pure damage. Planes, damage, planes, damage, planes, damage, steam catapult damage and health, and homing beacons damage and cooldown reduction or whatever. Now, if I want to go like, oh, I need help for this one, okay, that's fine. I'll just toss on, I don't know, a VH armor right here. VH armor plating. I can do that. If I want more aviation damage, I'll just toss on another steam catapult. No big deal. I can build however I want without having to worry like, oh, the steam catapult roll defense looks like it's a trash steam catapult now. Or like this homing beacon rolled like, I don't know, defensive percentage or whatever. It's trash now. I don't have to worry about that because all the gears are the same. I can tweak however I want, and then we're good to go. I don't have to worry about any thinking. Just use the same old things, and it works. Now, it can be boring long term, don't get me wrong, but knowing that you have all the gear in your disposal, and it's no different than like the people that have been playing for like, I don't know, 7 years, every single day for like 10 hours, your gear is the same as theirs. That's a feeling that I can sleep with, and I'll be really happy about that. So, gacha, gameplay, upgrades, there's very little RNG in this game, and I truly like that. The biggest RNG in this game are like the irrelevant ones. Like combat can be pretty irrelevant if you're doing like normal content. Bossing, it can be annoying, but it's not a big deal. Cat progression is heavily RNG, but luckily, 2 reasons. You don't need cats that much. You get like 3 or 4 usable lines, like for example this Oscar right here, and you're basically good to go. You don't have to think about it, just toss these on and you're fine. And they have been adding a few cats from past event where all these cats have the same line, like this one. This Kid Cat, this Drake Cat, they all have the same lines. Like every single person that has a Drake Cat or a Kid Cat, they share the same lines as me at level 30. That's nice. No RNG makes it so once you hit that finish line, you're done, you go work on something else. I think everyone, even people that enjoy RNG progression, truly wants a finish line somewhere on what they're working on so they can move on to something else. No one wants to sit there for 3-4 years upgrading that exact same gear over and over and over again to roll a best in slot high rolled gear upgrade, and then they say, all right, I can finally move on. But that could never happen because RNG is RNG, right? So I'll say it again, this game, even though it is very outdated, it still keeps some factors that truly makes gaming not a stressful like thing. Like there's no RNG upgrades, or most of them at least. The gacha is pretty good. Like all you need are cubes that you can farm for, and you don't have to think, oh, am I gonna win my 50-50 this time, or am I gonna get this character? It's more like, when am I gonna get the character? It could be the first multi, or 400, 500 cubes later. At the end of the day, you can farm for cubes. It's not that big of a deal. In most gacha games, it's if I'm gonna get that character. Am I gonna get Chong-Li? Am I gonna get Farina from Genshin Impact? Am I gonna get Firefly from Honkai Star Rail? In this game, it's when am I gonna get Alsace? When am I gonna get Musashi? Is a rerun coming soon? I have the cubes for it. I can get it right now, right? Isn't that a nice feeling to have? So yeah, that's all I gotta say. I'm making this literally after the fact that I sat for the past 2 hours rolling artifacts or echoes in Wuthering Waves and getting absolute donkey. So yeah, I just want to say that. So thank you guys for watching and listening to me vent, and let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.